Hey, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for clicking this video on how to draft a back bodice. Hopefully this is in continuation with part one on my previous video where we drafted a bodice front. If not, after you finish this one, make sure to go back and click on that one and follow along. So let's get started. We're going to start off like before. Instead of our center front, we're going to start with the center back. So I'm going to draw a long baseline and then come in and mark my center back point from A to B at 18 3/8 inches. Let's go A to B. Then we're going to go from A to C, our cross shoulder measurement of 7 3/4. Like always, I'm going to square out from my point and then come back in and mark the exact measurement. This is going to be point C. From point C, we're going to square down about 3 or so inches. Next, we're going to go from point B to D, which is going to be our center back length of 17 1/8. And mark there. It's going to be point B. And then we're going to square out point D about 4 inches. Next, we're going to go down to B, and we're going to do B to E, our back arc, which is our back waist measurement of 9 5/8. And we're going to add 3/4 to that for some wearer's ease, which comes to a total of 10 3/8 inches. So square out your point from B, then come back in and measure 10 3/8. My line looks like it was pretty spot on. And that's going to be point E. And square up from point E. Square up a good amount, because since we know from the front bodice, this is where our armhole point is going to align on. Now we're going to come back to point A. We're going to use our back neck measurement, and we're going to do point A to F. Our back neck measurement is 3 5/8. Then we're going to reduce that a 1/8 of an inch to 3 1/2. And we're just going to mark that point as point F. Next is going to be point B to G, our shoulder slope. And our shoulder slope measurement is 17 5/8. And we're going to reduce that by an 1/8 of an inch, which makes it 17 1/2. So we're going to put the tip of the ruler on point B, We're going to come over to the line, the squared off line of C. We're going to mark, I'm just going to mark the dot at 17.5. Then I'm going to scoot my ruler down so that I have more leverage and connect the dots. I'm using a erasable pen. I love these things. Hopefully you guys are able to see it, but I'm using an erasable pen. But definitely do this in a pencil so that you can mark, especially a mechanical pencil, because the lead is so fine, you can get a really precise measurements. So after we have our point G, then we're gonna go back and create F to H, which is going to be our shoulder seam. And our shoulder measurements is 5.25. And like I said, we're going to do a 1/2 inch dart. So our full measurement is going to be 5.75. So I've placed my ruler at 5.75 on F. It's going to go through point G, and I'm just going to draw out that line. To create point F. Now we're gonna go back to our F point and square that out with our reference line of D. We're gonna connect those two. So F is a squared point, D is a squared point. Next, we're going to do our dart placement. So along with the shoulder dart, we also have a waist dart. So our dart placement is 3.25 inches. So we're going to measure from B along the BE line and place a I reference mark at 3.25 inches. So that's going to be point I. And then from B to J, that's going to be our full back waist measurement, our waist arc measurement, plus our dart intake since we're adding the dart. So we're going to add 1.5 inches with our fullness dart. So we're going to take our waist arc measurement of 7.75, then add 1.5 inches to that, which is 8 7/8, and then we're going to add a quarter ease, which is going to give us 9 1/8. So laying our ruler again along the BE line and marking at 9 1/8. So that's going to be our J point. After that, we're going to go back to I and place our dart intake, which is 1.5 inches. So from point I, we mark 1.5 inches, which is going to give us K. And then we're going to split that, which is 3/4, which is going to be the middle of our dart, which is going to be point L. So along the BE line, we should have point B, point I, point L, point K, point J, and then close it out at point E. Next, we're going to go down to our point J. Similarly to how we did in our front, we're just going to extend this point and square it out about 3/16 of an inch and square it out to create a new point of M. And then from M, we're going to create our side length, our side seam length. So use your side length measurement and create your side seam. Mine is 8.5, so we're going to go from M to our E line and draw a point in at 8.5 inches. So now we have point in. Next, we're going to do work on our dart, and the center dart point looks a little bit off. So my point, I marked the wrong line. So, but make sure your dart is 1.5 inches of fullness and your L point is halfway, which is at 3/4. So now you're going to come in from L and draw a line out, a squared out line, and you want it to be 1 inch longer than your side seam length. So we know our side seam length was 8.5. So I'm going to mark this line at 9.5 inches. So drawing your line. And then marking your dart point, which is point O. Next, we're going to draw our dart legs. And all we're going to do is connect point O to I and add 1/8 of an inch past it. Just give it a little hang time. So just 1/8 of an inch past point I. And connect it. Which is a total of 9 5/8. Then we're going to do the same for K. Easy trick is your dart leg should be the same length. So if I know our first dart leg was 9 5/8, I can just pivot the ruler and draw the second dart leg. After creating the dart legs, you want to take your hip curve and connect your point B to I, and you just want the slightest of curves. So laying the ruler on point B and finding a place where it curves to connects and touches. And then you're going to do the same from point K to M. And you just want it to look good because after your pattern is drafted, you'll always go back and true up your lines, make sure everything is smooth, all your curves are smooth once the dart is closed and things like that. So now you have your back waist seam, which is the point B to I and K to M. Now coming back up to the top half of the back, draw in our dart in the shoulder seam. So you want to create point P, which is taking our shoulder seam measurement of 5 3/4 and dividing that in half, which is 2 7/8, and just placing a mark, and that's going to be point point P. And with that point, you want to draw a line that is 3 inches in the direction of O, and at the 3-inch mark, you're going to label that point Q. So what I did is I took my ruler and I connected point O to point P, and I have point P on a solid, like the top of the inch mark, so that I know I can just draw out 1, 2, 3 inches in that direction. Because if I wanted to, this line would extend, I'll put some dashes, it will extend all the way. So I have my 3-inch line that's in the direction of point O. So with that, you then want to, since our shoulder dart is a 1/2 inch of fullness, we're going to create a placement of a 1/4 inch and mark that as R. And that's Q. We're going to connect those points from Q to R, and we're just going to add an 1/8 of an inch tail to that piece. So it's going to go through R. Next, we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. We're going to do another mark for the other side of our dart leg, a 1/4 inch out. And like before, we'll measure our dart leg and then we'll just match it up to the new point. It's about a 1/4 past the FH line. So we have one dart leg that ends there and one dart leg that ends there. After that, we're going to connect our points from F to R, our first R, and then our second R, the dart leg, from that second R to H. Now we're going to go in and find our crossback point. And so our crossback point falls along the BD line. And what we're going to do is we're going to create point S, which is 1/4 of your BD line. So mine is 17 1/8. And if you divide that by 4, you get 4 1/4. And so I'm just going to mark from D down, mark that point as S. And then from S, we're going to square out, because this is where we'll lay our cross back point. And we'll do from S to T our cross back measurement, which is 7 3/8. My line needs to be a little bit longer. So we're going to do 7 3/8 and then add 3/8 worth of ease, which is going to give us 7 3/4. And mark that as T. And then we're going to square out our T point about 3 inches or so. Once we completed all of this, we have points A through T, then we can go in and start connecting dots with our armhole curve. So now take your armhole curve, and we want to connect point H, point or line T, and point N together. And we're just going to lay it out, try to connect our curve to all of the points as best we can. And then draw it out. When it comes to the back neck, we want to try to make sure that it stays out of this corner about 3/8 of an inch. So if you draw a little reference line that's squared out, that's about 3/8 of an inch. It gives you some parameters to work within. So then you're going to take your armhole curve and connect point F, follow or kind of tap on that line and connect it to, so I have it where it touches point F, it's on or slightly above that reference point, and then it connects to the line of D. Might be a little bit too close. You always have to keep in consideration the tool that you're using. So when it comes to a pen, Sharpie, they're wider. So that's why I always recommend you use a mechanical pencil, because the tip is so fine that it really doesn't add any fullness, any more length to your ruler that you're using. So now you've drawn in your back neck, your armhole, you've connected your shoulder and your waist. So now you're complete. The next step is to go in and true all of your points, closing your darts, making sure that your shoulder seam is still straight and flat when it's closed, and also closing your waist dart and making sure your waist seam curve is still smooth and fluid. I will add a short video showing you how to true your patterns, and I'll true the front and the back and true them together, making sure that the side seams and the shoulder seams all work and are the same length and so. So definitely take your time, follow along, go ahead and build your back pattern to match your front pattern block so that we can next create our sleeve block.